All right, I think we're ready to go. Good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning for our Coffee with a Candidate presented by the Chamber of Commerce in Mount Juliet. Today with us, we have Scott Hefner. Scott is entering the race to be and asking for your vote for District 3 City Commissioner for Mount Juliet. Early voting starts on October the 14th. The election's on November the 3rd, and we're going to go ahead and get started and ask Scott, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what
Sure.
you'd like to know, the voters to know about your campaign.
Excellent. Mark, first of all, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to speak with you and get the word out. This is a great forum, so I can't thank you enough for organizing this.
Thank you.
As Mark mentioned, I'm Scott Hefner. I've been a Mount Juliet resident since 2007. I moved here from Orlando, Florida. My professional background, has been in IT consulting, business process outsourcing. I worked for an organization called Affiliated Computer Services, which was acquired by Xerox, ultimately became Xerox's business services division. Part of my role and responsibilities working for Xerox was to go into Fortune 500 companies and government agencies, whether that's at the federal level, state, or the city level, and look at ways to automate some of their inefficient processes based on the back end. So going into administrative back end office and looking for manual processes that could use technology or best practices to eliminate some of the overhead and costs associated with those. Actually currently working with the city of Knoxville right now to automate some of their inefficiencies as part of their risk management department. I love Mount Juliet. Again, I've been here since 2007. My wife is Cherie. I have two daughters, Haley and Miley, 25 and 20 respectfully. I own a small farm in Watertown, where 2 years ago I started a vineyard. That's been my when I have spare time, I spend a lot of my my time out there, mainly weekends, just getting out in the country and enjoying the outdoors.
Well, we're glad you're here. Getting leisure time and running a campaign don't typically go together.
No, they do not. Needless to say, my vineyard has been a little neglected, to say the least.
Well, I know just from what I've read, that's hard work. There's no guarantees. You can work for years and years and years and lose everything in one frost. So,
absolutely,
got to have a passion for that. It's been interesting talking to the various candidates, not just here but all over. The old ways of getting out and going door to door and knocking on and shaking people's hands, that sort of went out the window with COVID, and folks have had to adapt, and we adapted by doing just this, using Zoom calls and stuff to get. So it's really not what you're hearing on the front porch, but when you're out meeting folks and talking to them about your campaign and what you bring to the table, what are some of the things that folks are responding with in terms of what their concerns are in the city, and maybe a little bit about how you would like to help address those?
Well, the number one concern I hear, and there are several, number one is the traffic. And quite frankly, that was probably the genesis for my even looking or considering running for city commissioner. I live in Clearview Estates, a small street on Fairview Knoll. We were impacted by the tornado. But the traffic, the congestion, I love Providence, but I'm not a fan of driving to Providence. So that was kind of, the start of the interest of, what's going on? Why do we have so much congestion? And everyone that I've talked to, pretty much overwhelmingly shares that same sentiment. There's what's going on with the infrastructure, what's going on with roadways, why are we constantly approving new commercial and residential development It seems that the residential and commercial development is outpacing our ability, or the city's ability, to maintain the infrastructure, which is absolutely the case. So that's probably first and foremost. That's one thing that I plan to address. I know we have passed recently the 2020 Comprehensive Transportation Plan, which is a 100-page document. I can say that, based on what I've heard and what's printed on the front of it, it took a little close to 4 years to create this plan. Hopefully that's not indicative of going forward, how we're going to actually implement that plan. So that's first and foremost. The other thing that I'm going to push for very, as much as I can, is term limits. We've got we've got some elected officials that have exceeded, a 2-term limit, 8 years. We've got an influx of folks that have been coming to Mount Juliet for the past 5-6 years that really need to, they're coming with fresh ideas, fresh perspective. And I think we owe it to them to give them a shot at making contributing to the city of Mount Juliet as well. So I'm pushing for term limits. That's number one on my, number one on my list.
Well, the transportation plan, it does seem like the landscape is changing regularly, and we're definitely growing, and nearly to a person from one end of town to the other. This has been something that a lot of folks are talking about is the traffic, and there's some other things. Obviously, we need some work, but we also have, with those people moving in here and calling this home, whether those are businesses or individuals, we're doing some things right. I mean, it's still we're being recognized by a lot of different folks for having a good city. What are some things that you think are maybe some assets that we have, or some real benefits to living here that we can either better take advantage of or promote, or that you're just excited about and something you brag about Mount Juliet?
Well, one of the main drivers for me moving here, my wife's been here since 1995. She's been a Mount Juliet resident since, the mid 90s. When I met my wife, in 06, 07, the school system here, the schools are phenomenal. We've got a phenomenal school system that at the time I had two. They were younger at the time, obviously 14 years ago. But, the school systems, I think we're very proud of the fact that we have a great school system, and we need to continue to, as a city, do everything we can to support the school systems, because we need each other. The city needs the school systems and vice versa. That's number one. Our parks, can't say enough. We need more parks for sure, but Charlie Daniels and some of the other parks they're constantly flooded and being used. Our greenways, love green. I'm an avid runner, an avid bicyclist, so I enjoy taking advantage of all the greenways and just the community in general. The people here are just phenomenal. When my wife and I were impacted by the tornado, within 48 hours, we had over a dozen volunteers that came from Connect Church, which were, all over, Mount Juliet. So that was overwhelming to me to see just the outreach of the community come in and help us. We had trees on our house, and they were coming in with chainsaws, and so just the community, the citizens in general, I would say at the top of the list is what makes Mount Juliet special.
Seems like
in my heart.
Yeah, it seems like good people sort of attract good people, and then you have more good people here, and they keep attracting more good people. It's
absolutely.
It is a great place to live, and I can't say did a great job with it after the tornado. That was just unprecedented, and one of the most heartwarming things that I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I can't say enough about the Mount Juliet Police Department. They are the finest law enforcement agency in Tennessee. Captain Chandler and his crew are just absolutely phenomenal. And the way they interact with the citizens of this community is just is unbelievable.
Yeah, we should all be thankful for that, because unfortunately there's other places where that's not the case, and it do them well to follow the model that Chief Hambrick has said here, and Tyler Chandler and all of the sworn officers. It's just it is amazing. But you touched on parks. We went for a long time, and parks, just kind of, we knew we needed them, but we didn't know how to get them, where to go, how to pay for them, or whatever. But it seems recently, I mean in the last 30 to 90 days, a little bit of movement on growing our parks department. Some questions maybe about how that happens, how that's going to happen, where. Got any thoughts on your observations from the recent discussions about the process for parks?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I'm a huge supporter of parks. I think we need more of them because a couple of reasons. One, I mean, you're giving back to the community, right? But secondly, depending on the location, you're gonna lock that green space down for any commercial or residential development. I know that's another hot topic for a lot of the constituents of District 3 that I've talked with. So they're worried about overpopulation, overgrowth. So that's one mechanism that we can do as a city to help preserve some green space and limit the amount of residential and commercial growth that happens. I know there's been some recent discussions on some property that was the Lions property. I know they pulled out of that deal. I think just from my perspective, Rocky does a great job. I think we need, as the board, the BOC needs to put some objectives out there. What are we trying to, what itch are we trying to scratch? What are we trying to solve for as a city? Do we need more soccer fields? Do we need more football fields? I feel like Rocky and the Parks Department do an excellent job, but they lack direction from the BOC. What do they actually need? The way it's been handled is, let's just go out and find some land, just for the sake of finding land. That's not the right approach, in my opinion. I think they need some direction. I think they've lacked that up to date. So there's been some beautiful properties that they've found. I think there's a couple of them that they're trying to kind of focus in on. But again, as a committee, as a parks committee, and I said this at a recent BOC meeting during citizen comments, we've got to. There's a certain amount as a citizen that we expect that the BOC, when they appoint these individuals to these committees, these boards, sit as department heads, that there's a certain amount of respect and trust that as a citizen, I assume that BOC has for these individuals. I would like to see more of that taken into consideration. And when I'm elected on November 3rd, I will rely pretty heavily on their input and to make informed decisions. It's not about making decisions during a BOC meeting without some information or some data backing it up, and it seems to be the case, at least the BOC meetings that I've tuned into. So, respecting their opinions, knowing that each and every one of them take their job very seriously. I totally recognize that, and they should be, they should be respected, and at least their opinion should matter, at least in consideration. I'm not saying there's a rubber stamp for everything that comes in front of the BOC, but I think some consideration needs to be taken into their hard work and efforts.
A couple of things you mentioned as far as just giving those boards the parameters of what you're looking for, and give them some guidelines, and that right off the bat would eliminate them coming back with swimming pools if you're looking for tennis courts or whatever it might be. So I think you're spot on with that, and I appreciate your remarks personally at the BOC meeting when you stood up and pointed that out. we talked for a second about the police department, but we also, in 7 short years, have a pretty robust and very dedicated fire department. And there's been a little bit of movement recently. Your thoughts on where we're at, where we need to be, and the best ways we might get there. What your thoughts are on the expansion of the fire department, Scott?
Well, the fire department's been overfunded. It's funded by property taxes, so it is underfunded. It is understaffed. The chief got up during that same BOC meeting and said he needed 9 fire positions approved. Not next year, not in 6 months, but he needed them now. And you got to respect the man that's leading the charge on that. That's running that department. Based on the statistics that I heard, we should be at around 1.5 per 1,000 citizens in Mount Juliet. Currently, we're at 0.5. Somebody can fact check me on that, but based on what I heard during the citizen comments, we are grossly understaffed in the fire department. Now, to me, and the mayor had mentioned, well, we're putting out fires, aren't we? Has there been an issue? Well, not yet, thankfully. But you don't buy life insurance after you passed away. These are preventive measures, right? You got to make sure you're adequately staffed in the event that you do need to max out your resources. Can't wait for a single person to pass away in a fire to decide we need to go hire more people. That's not the way. That's not how you do things. You do not do it that way. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm all for properly funding the fire department. I think even with 9, I think we're slightly below where we need to be. But I'm happy that we got the 9 that we did.
You know, that need is, as you said, is not going away. A few weeks ago, maybe the 14th of September, I believe, broke ground on a new fire station on the north end of town that will need equipment and gear and vehicles and staffing. So clearly the need is going to continue to not only be what it is, but I would imagine it's going to even grow.
Absolutely. And my my view on the funding of the fire department, I sat down with City Manager Kenny Martin. Again, my background's in business, so I put everything in the mindset of, the city's a business, right? You got a CEO, you've got a board of directors, and then you have the citizens, which are your stockholders. From the fire department standpoint, it's underfunded. Yet we have a surplus running in our general fund to the tune of about $5 million on average every year, which is great. That's a good problem to have. But why, I made this suggestion to Kenny, just again, looking at it from a business standpoint, why don't we move the fire department under the general fund? And he agreed. He agreed. In fact, I think Vice Mayor James Manus had made some suggestions earlier on this year, maybe it was later last year, to do that very same thing. And it didn't go anywhere. I don't understand why, but it seems like a logical solution to me to solve the fire department's problems when it comes to funding. And it also eliminates the need to make any adjustments to property taxes. So, which I'm not in favor of whatsoever of increasing taxes, period. I'll say it again. I will not support a tax increase. But I think to solve the fire department's underfunding problem is to simply move it into the general fund where we have a surplus.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you very much. Good insight. As we sort of wrap up just a little bit, I realize this is not for the President of the United States' position, but what you're asking for is a lot of responsibility. And I'm sure in your mind, you've got an idea. Tell us what you think maybe the first 100 days of you being on the commission. What would be your focus in those first 93 months, 100 days? Well,
the first thing I'm going to do is we're going we're gonna solve that fire department problem, number one, and I'm gonna work very hard to pass term limits, number two. The second thing is, which I've already started doing this, but I'm going to roll up my sleeves and sit with the department heads and really get an understanding from them. What are some of the pain points? What are some of the challenges, hurdles that they've experienced when it comes to them executing their job, and try to resolve some of those. We've got a specifically. We've got a funded transportation plan that addresses roughly 25 road improvements that are already funded. Old Lebanon Dirt Road is about halfway down that list. And when I met with Andy, it seems like some of these programs, some of these are projected out 4 and 5 years. I don't understand what the delay is. What's the bureaucracy that needs to be broken down? So I'm going to dig in and try to break the rust off the wheels of bureaucracy in this city and start fast track and see what I can do to start fast tracking some of these projects, specifically around the road improvements that have already been funded. That money's already sitting there. So it's not doing anybody any good sitting in the bank. So we need to put that money to work, and that's what I'm going to be driving. So that's the first 100 days.
Well, I think there are a lot of people that agree we can't move fast enough on the road projects. A couple of final thoughts as we close out and end our time together. Take just a minute or so and once again tell the voters why you're the person for that position, and
Sure.
Be sure to ask for their vote, and include, if you would, maybe a candidate, your website, Facebook page, so
Sure.
that after this, reach out to you. Thanks, Scott.
So, Mark, appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do this. I'm not a politician. I know that's almost cliche nowadays, but I truly do adore this city. I love this city. We're not moving anywhere. We're retiring here. I'm at a point in my career where I'm moving into more of a semi-retirement role. I'm going to take my experience that I've had, my professional experience, and apply that specifically to Mount Juliet. I've done work, as I mentioned, for some federal agencies, Department of Justice, Department of Labor, City of Knoxville, several others, that I'm going to take that background and experience and apply that to my own hometown. I appreciate the opportunity and the trust. I will work my hardest to make Mount Juliet even better than it already is, because Mount Juliet is a wonderful place to live, and I want to continue that and improve on it as much as I absolutely can. November 3rd and early voting, I do appreciate your vote. My website is it's pretty easy, scotthefner.com. And if you want to reach me directly, you can call my cell phone, which is 615-772-6842. That's 615-772-6842. My email address is scott@scotthefner.com. Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate it. God bless. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
And everybody that reads this or sees this prior to then, Monday morning at 10 o'clock, I know Scott will try to be there. They're having a ribbon cutting for the Town Center Trail Bikeway. If you see us by then, I hope you'll join us over there. Scott, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Willingness to serve the citizens of Mount Juliet. Good day.
Appreciate it. Bless.